Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This breaking news just before I walked into the studio, a breakthrough in the peace talks that are being held in Cairo. According to this report, a deal has been initialed by Hamas and by Israel. The delegation from Israel is flying back to Jerusalem, where they will present the deal to the Security Cabinet. And if the Security Cabinet approves, then it's a done deal. The ceasefire that has been in place was due to expire at 12 p.m. Israeli time, which is about 1 hour from right now. However, it looks like there's a deal. I'm going to tell you the details. Now, let's make sure we all understand why this is so absolutely important. It's important because there's a prophecy in the Bible that a peace agreement is coming between Israel and the Palestinians. A Palestinian state will be created. So this is what the prophecies of the Bible have to say. Nevertheless, Hamas was the biggest blockade in this process. Hamas was the element that said, we will never recognize Israel. We will never make peace with Israel. Well, now then, Hamas has been negotiating with Israel. Israel has been negotiating with Hamas. Will this change the charter stance of Hamas and allow Hamas and Fatah to come into an agreement with Israel? If so, this is a huge leap toward the fulfillment of the greatest prophecy in 2,000 years. Now, I don't want to say that lightly. I'm talking about the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. Now, I'm not saying that this agreement today is it. I don't think it is. But it certainly is going to bear directly on that. Now, the fulfillment is that when the Palestinians and the Israelis get a peace agreement that establishes a Palestinian state, that allows Jews to stay in that Palestinian state as a Jewish minority, and number three, that places the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. The agreement that does those three things is the agreement that marks the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus to this earth. I'm not kidding. I'm talking about the physical return promised 2,000 years ago, but it will happen 7 years after this agreement. This breakthrough that's being announced today could have a direct bearing on quickly moving toward that agreement. Let me just give you a little bit of this article. This comes from Israel National News. The Israeli and Palestinian teams to Cairo ceasefire talks have signed their initials to a permanent ceasefire agreement, according to an unconfirmed report by Bethlehem-based Mayan News. Meanwhile, sources close to the Palestinian delegation in Cairo told the Al-Quds newspaper Monday night that there has been a breakthrough in the talks that may make it possible to extend the ceasefire even before it expires at midnight tonight. It looks like that's now a done deal. Another article that comes to us from the Jerusalem Post is titled Palestinians to Announce Ceasefire with Israel Within Hours. The Palestinian sources reported on Monday that a ceasefire with Israel was expected to be announced just before midnight on Monday. Palestinian news agency Mayan reported that the Israeli delegation had left Cairo and was set to return to Israel and present the cabinet with the ceasefire agreement to be approved. The reported deal comes after significant progress was made in Egyptian-mediated ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas, according to Palestinian sources. Let me pause there to make sure that we understand what the issues are. You've got Hamas, which rules over Gaza. Israel doesn't want to rule over Gaza. Israel unilaterally withdrew in 2005 during the prime ministership of Ariel Sharon. So Israel doesn't want to rule over Gaza. However, Hamas has continually lobbed rockets into southern Israel over the time since 2005. Israel can't stand that to go on either. No country would allow 8,000 rockets to be lobbed into your country against your people, against your civilians, and just do nothing. So Israel just did something. They wreaked unprecedented devastation on the people of Gaza. Now the ceasefire is in place. Now they're trying to make it permanent. So what are the issues then? Well, Israel, ever since 2005, has blockaded Gaza. Consequently, Gaza cannot import goods in, cannot export goods out, except they go through Israeli checkpoints. The people of Gaza are very opposed to this blockade. So consequently, they're continually lobbying. We're launching rockets into Israel because you are totally controlling our borders. It's like we're living in a big prison with 1.5 million people. But can Israel take its foot off of the blockade? Well, obviously not, because we saw how many rockets Hamas has as they were firing them toward Israel during the conflict over the last 30 days. So Israel is sitting there saying, we cannot, there's no way we can open things up, because even cement that was allowed into Gaza to rebuild homes and buildings, even that has not worked, because Hamas took the cement and built tunnels out of it, tunnels that some of them extended into Israel for a kilometer or a kilometer and a half. And all of a sudden you've got this hole coming up out of the ground, and Palestinian terrorists are able to come in, invade the Israeli settlements at night, and attack the people, kill the settlers, and nobody can settle for that. So the problem has become very complex. Now, would Israel like to just open the blockade and say, we've got a peace agreement, no more problem? Well, it appears that Israel would, in fact, like to do that. But does she dare? No, she does not. However, in these negotiations, they're attempting to substitute other powers at the crossroads, at the entrance ways into Gaza. For example, it appears that one of the provisions of this agreement that's going to be initialed within the next hour or so, are going to be agreed to within the next hour or so. One of the provisions is that the Palestinians, that Mahmoud Abbas, will control the checkpoints. So Israel is putting quite an amount of trust in Mahmoud Abbas. Can they trust him? Well, some people, of course, would say no, they can't. Others would say, yes, they can trust him. There are even reports that there is a trilateral agreement between Egypt, the Palestinians led by Mahmoud Abbas, and Israel. They claim that these three, Hamas is in such dire straits because she's lost her supporter in the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. They're now all in jail. Hamas has lost many other people that have been supplying money and armaments. So now then, Hamas really has no choice but to bow the knee to this new agreement that is being foisted on her by the Palestinians, by Israel, and by Egypt. In addition to that, Russia is apparently backing the deal as well. So all these things are converging today, within the hour, actually. Where will it lead? Well, let me give you a little bit more of the article, because it's so interesting. While there is no word regarding the nature of the discussions, a number of websites affiliated with Islamic Jihad, as well as independent Palestinian sources, say that there has been greater movement by both sides toward a deal. There is optimism, and it seems as if the chances of reaching an agreement are better than they've ever been so far, said a Palestinian source currently in Cairo. Sources in Cairo told the Ma'an news agency that the Egyptian government has presented a two-tiered plan, one security-oriented and the other political, which includes a mechanism that could lead to a lifting of the siege on Gaza. The article goes on to say that Tariq Fahmy, the head of the Israeli unit at the Egyptian National Center for Middle East Studies, said that the goal of the talks today is to neutralize the main crisis points, particularly the question of the Gaza airport and Israeli concessions regarding the sea, as well as the issue of the tunnels. The Palestinians, I should say Hamas, is insisting on a seaport. Well, Israel says we can't give you that because we can't trust you. You're going to use it as an open door to bring more rockets in and everything else so that you can fight against us another day. Also, Gaza is insisting on its own airport. They want to be like a nation. But again, Israel says we can't trust you. We have to protect the security of our citizens first. Israel insists on demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, listen close to this sentence, from rockets and missiles, and the declaration of a ceasefire that would last between 5 and 7 years, he said. The Palestinian side has yet to compromise on any of the key questions. Now notice that they're talking about a ceasefire that will last between 5 and 7 years. The Bible prophesies a peace agreement that's going to last for 7 years. Is this the same thing? I don't know. Nevertheless, it's so important. Now, before we go on, as all of you know, we are preparing to send a magazine to every single home in the West Bank or in all of Israel. We're going to send a magazine to every home as soon as the 7-year peace agreement is signed. And in order for us to do that, the budget for that is $1.8 million. Well, guess what? We're at $1,785,000, which means we only have $15,000 to go to reach our goal. 30 people to donate $500 each, and the goal is reached. So why don't we light up the phones? The number to call is 1-800-Endtime. If you've already given, but you can do it again, please do it again. That's 1-800-363-8463, or you may go to endtime.com and donate there as well. Well, a lot moving today. God bless you all, and we'll be back in just a moment.